Welcome to Field of Screams podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the movie Hereditary. Hereditary came out about 8 years ago, 2018, I believe is the year it came out. And I feel like it made a huge splash. It was almost kind of a game changer for the time. Covering grief and all that stuff, that's nothing new. But this movie hit very hard when it came out. And I feel like lots of times when new scary movies come out, when someone's really hyped, like whenever I went to see Undertones, I saw literally someone post on Reddit. They're like, is this the new Hereditary? And I feel like just because the movie Hereditary just holds such a high standard of when it first came out, like it kind of shocked a lot of people. It was a pretty surprising movie. I remember way back whenever it came out, me and a friend, we were bored. We had nothing to do that day. And I was just looking at the movie theater. I'm like, there's a movie called Hereditary. I'm like, maybe it's a sci-fi type film. And literally we knew nothing about it. We went to the theater that day. We bought tickets. We were the only ones in the theater. And both of us were joking around. We're like, man, if this is bad, we could just make fun of it because, no one else is here in the lobby. We could just have a good time. And little did we know what we were in store for. Even when the movie starts off, we kind of just get these characters. We got Charlie, who's this little girl. She's very odd. She makes a click noise. When she does it, it's kind of like, why does she do that? And something just seems very off about her. At school, she's taking birds and cutting their heads off. And it's like, all right, Charlie's going to be the creepy little girl in this movie. She's going to be the one that a paranormal spirit's going to be following around. Charlie's probably going to get up at night, and scare the rest of the family. We got the mom, Annie. She just lost her mom. And she's going through a lot of grief. She's sneaking off to grief counseling. Again, just very tough scenes. And this movie does a good job with just how it's shot. Even the score, the lighting. You never feel comfortable even when the movie starts and nothing even happens. And while we're just kind of sitting through it, we're like, okay, the mom's going through grief. Charlie's odd. I can kind of see where this film's going. When we got Peter, who is the son, I feel like he's the normal stand-in when the film starts. He's just a typical high school kid. He's got a crush on this girl. He's looking at her butt in the classroom. And you're like, oh, hopefully Peter can get with this girl he likes. We'll find out. And then we got the dad who, with the mom going through the grief and Charlie being odd and Peter just wanting to go do his own thing. He's just trying to keep the family together, but it's just unraveling as the movie goes. So, you don't start in a safe spot at all. Immediately it's kind of like, all right, there's some tension here. Where are we going to go? And I also want to throw in two highlights. Before huge things happen, there are some unsettling moments. For example, the mom looks into the dark room and she sees her mom in the shadows, just kind of creep out of the darkness. And whenever that happened, I was like, ooh, that was good. That was really good. So that surprised me. I remember when I watched it, made me feel a little unsettled. And even during the grandma's funeral, Charlie is by the casket. She's sitting there, and there's this dude who walks up and just gives her the slight smile. And the dude just doesn't feel right. He just feels very strange. Why are you smiling at a little girl? Hopefully your family. I don't know. And something that also kind of put me off about this dude, he literally looked just like a coworker I once had. And this coworker, so I worked at a jail for 2 years. I was a jailer. And while I worked at the jail, there was a guy who was hired in, a brand new guy. And whenever he came in, he seemed all right enough. I'm like, hey, I'm introducing myself. And he's like, hey, and like, we're just small talking. He's like, yeah, so what do you like to do, man? And like, I said, I love scary movies. Like, that kind of got brought up. Like, it's not the only thing I said. But, you know, scary movies got brought up. And he's like, oh, dude, me too. Like, you know, you should pop over to my place sometime, you know, and like, we'll just watch a good old scary movie. And I was like, yeah, you know, that'd probably be dope. Like, we could probably do that. And I was just out of high school, like, while this was going on. And, you know, like, I'm talking to my other coworkers, and everyone's like, yeah, he seems cool. And then eventually one of my coworkers, he comes up to me and he's like, dude, have you talked to the new guy? And I was like, yeah, he seems all right. And he's like, no, he's not. And I'm like, what do you mean? And apparently this guy, he invited that coworker over to his house, and then he kind of laid out the details that he wanted the guy that I worked with to sleep with his wife while he pulled up a chair and watched from the corner of the room. Now, granted, people are into different things, and if you're into that, that's you. That's cool. But me, straight out of high school, like it just kind of shocked me a little bit. And initially, like, I didn't believe my coworker's story. I was like, "No, come on, man, he didn't do that." He goes, "No, he like wanted to do that. Like he was like, you should sleep with my wife," and like he was very adamant about it. He really wanted to do it, and like I was just like, I don't know, like I don't know if I believe but the dude was dead serious, so like I had to take it seriously, but still, it was kind of like, I don't know. So I looked him up on Facebook, and when I pulled him up on Facebook, he was taking pictures of his wife, barely dressed, and he's like, "Oh, anyone want to have a good time tonight?" And it's like a bunch of like random dudes and like old dudes are like, "Oh, she looks so good, I could just eat her up." And man, like that got under my skin, because I was like, oh, like I would have went to his house like wanting to pop in a scary movie, and he would have wanted me to do that. Like I wouldn't have wanted to do that. Like that's weird, and that just rubbed me the wrong way. Now, if you're saying like I'm being very judgmental of this guy just because of his one kink, I will also put out there that this guy, he came in once drunk, and I'm trying to remember, he did not get fired for that, because in the controversy of that, and while someone complained and he was going to get in trouble for that, but before any of that stuff went down, he was also found with meth. The dude was pretty wild. And I'll also put out there that there was one time us coworkers, there was a group of us, like we put on a movie. It's that movie with Seth Rogen where the food talks. And there's a part to where in the movie, like the food does bath salts. And we're all just like watching, laughing, having a good time. But when that scene comes up, he looks up and he goes, "Anyone ever done bath salts before?" And like we all just kind of like paused, and we knew this dude for like 3 days when he asked this, and we're just like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then like it kind of got like awkward quiet, and like we continued conversation, so it wasn't that awkward. But yeah, like he was just kind of a different guy. He got caught with meth. And yeah, he had that little thing. So after that moment, that was like a little learning moment for me of, just be careful of where you go. You'll never know what people want to do, and maybe some stuff might make you uncomfortable. So, you should learn who people are before you visit them. Just throwing that out. I never went to the guy's house, so there's that. But yeah, he looked just like this dude who was smiling at the girl, at the funeral. So, it was a creepy enough moment, but like just the way he looked, I was like, oh, that looks like my coworker. Oh no. Like, hopefully this is the last time we see this guy. Unfortunately, it was not. The first big shocking moment of this movie, and I think everyone knows where it's gonna go. Peter, he goes to the party. The mom makes him take Charlie to the party, which I know the mom's grieving, but what are you thinking? I know Peter was downplaying it like, well, we're not going to do anything. We're going to like sit around a bonfire. But I mean, the kid's in high school. He's trying to fit in. Like, I just read a room, mom. Like, don't make him take his elementary sibling to a high school party. Like, I don't know. Like, just it wasn't the right move for the mom, and Peter was kind of giving off weird vibes, and I feel like it was the mom's way of trying to like checkmate him, like, oh, nothing's going on, huh? We'll take your sister. Like, oh, okay, mom. But he takes her, and when he takes her, she has an allergic reaction to the peanuts and sticks her head out the window and gets decapitated. And the scene is so difficult to watch. Just by his reaction, the shock of it all. Because like before this moment, like I kept joking with my friend, like, dude, the younger sister, like, she's gonna be like saying like random things at night, and we're kind of poking fun at like the goofy stuff that she could do if she was like possessed or something. So when she gets decapitated and we're kind of like poking fun, I immediately felt like a douchebag. I was like, oh no, like, I didn't want that to happen. Like, I thought she was just going to get spooky a little bit. Like, I didn't expect her to die this soon. I didn't expect her to die at all, really. So that really shocks you. And it follows up with, like, He goes into the house, like doesn't say anything, and then you just hear the mom screaming. And that is difficult to hear. And from this point on, from when Charlie gets decapitated to the end of the film, the movie doesn't really let go. Like, it feels like it's just hitting the gas pedal, whether it be conversation at the dinner table between mom and Peter, or just, I don't know, the mom going out and meeting some random lady who's like, oh, I had a child who passed away, and I have a way that I can speak to them. And, like, you just know, like, if you watch scary movies or just, it's usually not a good route they go. And when it's already in a dark place, like, well, once the decapitation happens, you're in your head, you're like, anything can happen. Like anything's fair game. Like, they already killed off a little kid by decapitation. Like, what else could they do? So, like, it just does a very good job of pushing it. And I think one of the next, like, really scary scene is, like, when the mom gets the dad and Peter, and she's like, well, we can listen to Charlie. And she starts doing, like, the voodoo magic stuff. And Peter's like, Mom, quit. And the dad's like, I don't know about this. And then she literally starts speaking like a kid. And her facial expressions are just insane. Toni Collette, like, she does a fantastic job throughout this film. I mean, everyone does a great job. Like, everyone's well acted. But, I mean, Toni Collette going from, like, the stressed out, grieved mom to, like, just, like, a psychopath, like, as this movie goes, to acting like a little kid when she's possessed. Going, Mommy? Mommy? And, like, Peter's, like, screaming, like, no! Like, it's too much to handle, really. And during these really tough scenes, like, I found myself, and maybe it's because I'm a guy, like, I was trying to picture myself in Peter's shoes and the dad's shoes. And there really isn't any action they can take throughout all of this. Like, it's not like they're making awful decisions and it's leading to bad things. Like, Peter's kind of trapped. Like, his mom is losing it. Like, he is responsible for killing Charlie. And just kind of picturing myself in the dad's shoes, like, what in the world? Like, you just lost a kid, your wife is spiraling, the son's, like, trying to rebel a little bit, but he feels guilt, and he's spiraling now. At school, he's, like, slamming his face on the school desk, like, he's just unwell. So, like, what do you do? And, like, even the decisions, like, there comes a time to where he tells the mom, like, listen, you gotta stop, and, like, she's going on, like, going into different things. And even from the mom's perspective, I mean, you lose your own mom, you lose your daughter. I mean, good luck making stable decisions. That's about as difficult as it can get. Like, there was a point 2 or 3 years ago, I lost both of my grandmas in 1 month, and it's everyone loves their grandma, but, like, I took that very, very hard, and it took me a long time to recover. So, I mean, just watching this movie, and you're trying to put yourself in these characters' shoes, it's like, I don't know which character I'd rather be, to be honest. All of them seem pretty screwed. I mean, really, the only justifiable decision that probably could have saved some people in their own skin is if the dad would have, like, picked up Peter and tried to just, like, leave. Which is very cold-hearted, because, again, his wife is grieving, lost her, like, I don't need to keep repeating that. And in the circumstances, like, it just almost seems, like, very cold-hearted, but, when the wife is trying to do seances and getting possessed by, like, little kid spirits, and just going through all this stuff, like, it's a very hard place, and that's why, like, this film is just so difficult to watch, because it's so unsettling, and the feelings are hard. Now, as tough as this movie is to watch, like, the ending really, really slams on the gas pedal, to where the dad catches fire. And, like, as soon as the dad catches fire, because, like, I feel like the dad was, like, the one beacon of hope for Peter. It's like, man, like, get this boy out of there, like, come on. And he's, like, trying to reason with his wife, and there comes a part to where they find the grandma's body in the attic, and the dad's looks like he finally has had enough. There's a book to where the mom wants him to, like, destroy it. It gets cast into the fire, and then, like, once he catches fire and he perishes, and you just see the look on the mom's face, like, because she's kind of going in and out of possession, like, as the movie is going, with the seances and stuff. And as soon as he catches fire, you see the look of, like, horror in her face. And then her face just goes to like no emotion. And as soon as it does that, it's like, oh no, like what's gonna happen next? And again, anything goes. Like this movie's been doing anything possible, so you're like, oh, like not good stuff is gonna happen. And poor Peter, he's asleep upstairs. And God help him, God help him. And that's exactly the feeling, because like the camera just kind of pans to Peter sleeping, and as he's getting up, he has no clue. He had just been hurt, kind of traumatized by his own events. And the poor dude only just wanted to get with one girl, and look at everything that's happened. And when he wakes up, I remember in the theater, like my eyes were like darting around. I'm like, oh my gosh, like get out of there, Peter. Like there's no way this is gonna end well for him. And I just remember the mom like crawling on the ceiling, and then like it almost looks like she like swims away through the air. And by this point she's supernatural. And like so I just remember going like, oh my god, like what is happening? And it looks so good too. Like usually, like if I'm talking about like bad scary movies that aren't grounded anymore, I'm like, yeah, then like a possessed dude just starts crawling on walls and crawling on the ceiling, and things start going flying and going crazy. But like this little moment in the darkness where it shows her like crawling and then like her like swimming away or climbing away, it looks so good. It really does. Like even on repeat watches, like even when I watch it now, I'm like, that's so creepy. And then it kind of goes to the chase scene. She's chasing Peter around the house, and he locks himself up in the attic. And once he does that, like you just hear like boom, 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 and the mom's like slamming her head on the attic. And you're like freaked out. You're like, oh, maybe Peter can get out of this. And I just remember like he's walking around, and I'm trying to recall which one happened first, with the mom with the sawing motion, or when she sees the people. But when the people walk out and they're naked, there's something just very taboo about being naked in a movie, especially like if you're older. And that's not, trying to dunk on older people being naked, but it's just very uncomfortable when anyone's uncomfortable in a horror movie, when they're naked. But especially when they're older. And of course, the dude who looked like my coworker, he's like one of them, and he has a huge smile on his face. And just so uncomfortable. Yeah, and then he looks up, and the mom's literally sawing off her head with a rope. And just that image of her sawing off her own head was so haunting. Oh my gosh, like it's so just bad. And then of course the end, Peter, he dies, floats up to like the like little tree house or whatever it was. And there's like the severed heads laying around, people bowing down. Yeah, and he becomes like the king of demons. Is it Palemon? Yeah, that sounds right. Oh, hail Palemon, or I know I'm mispronouncing it. I gotta be. You know, type in how it's pronounced in the comments if you want, if I'm way off. But yeah, like it's just a very dark, bleak ending to a dark, bleak film. And I just recall me and my friend, like once it finally all ended, like the credits start rolling, and both of us just like slowly like look at each other, and we're like, oh my god, what did we just watch? And at the time, I remember heading home. Me and my wife, we had lived in a farmhouse. And with living in a farmhouse, like, I don't know, something about this movie and like just the setting and everything, like once I got home, it almost just seemed very similar to like what the house felt like in Hereditary. I don't know if that makes sense because the house is actually pretty nice in Hereditary. And the farmhouse that we had, it was like, I don't want to say it was cheap, but it hadn't been fixed up for a while, and rent was very cheap, which was nice. But this movie lingered in my head as I went to sleep that night. And my wife, bless her soul, she talks in her sleep sometimes. And I just remember like laying down, and I ignore it for the most part. Like I'm used to it. When you're with someone for a while, like it's almost just like white noise. Like you don't even know it's there. But I remember just laying down, and she's kind of just mumbling, talking in her sleep. And while she is, she makes a noise very similar to the. And when that happens, I kind of shook her awake. Because there's just no way I could deal with that. I couldn't deal with that in the moment. Like, I couldn't fall asleep with her making that noise after I just watched this movie that, like, legitimately freaked me out. And I haven't had a movie freak me out in theaters at that point since, like, the third Paranormal Activity movie. So it had been years since, like, I had gone to a theater and, like, left it being like, oh my God, like, I'm kind of freaked out by that. It was just very, it was familiar. I felt like a little kid again, just like a scared little kid, like laying to sleep. But yeah, like I woke her up and she goes, oh, what? And I was like, oh, sorry, like you were talking in your sleep and I thought you said like you needed me or something. Like I was just checking. And she was like, oh, okay. And she like rolled over and I felt like the biggest coward in the world. I'm like, my God, like can't even let my wife sleep because I'm terrified of this movie. But yeah, that was during that time though. Like it was just, it did freak me out when I first watched it. Now I've seen this movie a lot of other times since then. A lot of different rewatches. If I have had friends or acquaintances who are like, man, I just want a good scary movie, I'm like, oh, I got one for you. It's called Hereditary. I've just watched it several times with them. Of course, over the span of years, it's not like I'm doing that all in a month. Like, oh, let's watch Hereditary. It's such a just good scary movie that, when people are like, oh, nothing really freaks me out. I'm like, oh, well, let's try this film out. Like, this film's pretty good. Let's try it. And throughout the rewatches, this movie is so fun, even though it's dark and bleak and sad and just terrifying. Because there's just little tidbits and Easter eggs as you watch this movie. Even the scene where Charlie gets decapitated, on that pole as they're driving to the party, like it shows the pole, and I was like, oh, of course, it's foreshadowing. But it has the cult, that's in charge of the whole payment business, as its like symbol on the pole. And there's a part too where it shows the house like right before the ending. And it kind of does to like it shows the house like during the day, like at night, and then like during the day again. And like very small, like off in the distance, like you see the people that were naked in the attic. You literally see them like standing outside the house, which is just the first time I watched it, like it was just such a nothing scene to me. I'm like, oh, they're doing a cool transition. That's cool. But then like as I rewatched it, I'm like, oh my God, the cult people, they were right outside the house before the reveal even happened. So those are just cool little Easter eggs that like Aster did. So yeah, I'm very fond of this movie. Like this movie, like it just goes places to where, again, like 2018, and I feel like everyone always does it. Like, oh, this movie broke the mold. This movie, like changed everything. But I do think this movie did play a big part. Like I feel like there's just a lot of nods to it, or even like the score. I feel like the scores these days for new horror films, like they try to like emulate it sometimes, or like make something very similar. Because when you're talking about like things like elevated horror, like I often do think of this movie because it just feels very well made and well crafted. And usually when you have a score like this movie does, that feels like it's just handmade for this film, which maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it feels that way. So it feels like the movie's just very well done. And credit to Ari Aster, like this was his first film that he had made, first feature film. And apparently he had like written this and had it planned for years, which is just really cool that the dude had this story just built up in his head, ready to go. He has made several other movies afterwards, and I feel like they haven't quite reached the level of Hereditary. But like I said in my review for Undertone, not everything has to be Hereditary. When you do something that's kind of trend-setting, or something that's just like a huge splash, that feels brand new, it's hard to like put that lightning in the bottle again. I think that's why they have that expression. Putting lightning in a bottle is hard. It shouldn't be easy to do. Like no director takes lightning and puts it in a bottle multiple times throughout their career. You got people like John Carpenter, you got Wes Craven, you got Jordan Peele. He made a big splash with his first film. You got James Wan. You got like all these great directors, and sometimes they come out with like a brand new movie that like almost seems to change things, or just is such a big mainstream hit that people are like, oh, is it going to be just like their first film? And like sometimes I'm like, settle down, like just go and watch their movie and enjoy it. Again, not everything has to be Hereditary. Undertone does not have to be Hereditary. Hereditary its own beast. And it's like almost kind of just a unique film. And I'm glad Aster isn't trying to replicate it, because I think he would fail if he did. And same thing with the movie like Jordan Peele, when he came out with Get Out. When Get Out came out, like I think it's a fine film. I think it was a bit overhyped when it happened, but whenever he came out with the film Us, a lot of people are like, oh, do you think it's going to be as big as Get Out? No. Because that's very hard to do. Like, now the expectations are raised that high. Like sometimes they're bound to fail. Same thing with James Wan. I saw some people like trash him on some subreddit the other day, and they're like, yeah, he just hasn't been the same since the beginning of his career. And it's like, why you knocking the dude? Like, the dude has done great things. Like, just let him be. But I get it. We constantly want that brand new horror film that just completely shocks you and does something new, like Hereditary did in 2018. And even though like we're constantly on that lookout, it's hard to find that new high, because once you hit it, it's like, oh, I want to find something scarier. And again, when you're setting the bar super high, it's hard to find something like that. Though I did... Little foreshadowing in one of the next episodes I'm about to do. I did find a movie that I do think it scared me more than Hereditary. In fact, I will say it did. I'm not going to say what it is. So, if like you want to find out what that is, make sure you're subscribed. This is my little plug-in moment. Make sure you're subscribed, and make sure, you give this video a like so that I come out in your recommendations. But for a while I was like, there'll never be another Hereditary for me. And then like I found a movie that like it creeped me out even more than Hereditary did. And I'm very excited to cover that episode whenever it comes out. But yeah, sometimes it's just hard to find that one film that does it for you. So yeah, I went on a pretty long tangent, but I think the movie's well deserved for a long tangent. Because again, to me, it's one of a kind. And I feel like there wasn't a lot of people that hated this movie when it came out. Like, the movie Undertone, it's completely divisive. Like, there's some people that said it's one of the scariest movies they ever watched. Other people are like, I fell asleep. Like, and they're like posting it. I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know why that's the hill you're standing on. You didn't like it that much. But like it's almost like there's like two crowds to it, and you'll get that. Like, I love Paranormal Activity. Some people are like, oh, you think pots falling down in the middle of the night is scary? Oh, and it's like, okay, dude, you don't like Paranormal Activity? Like, get off my back. But like this film, I feel like there wasn't a lot of backlash to it. So maybe that just speaks to how good it was. Of course, there's always a few, but it just seemed like the opposing crowd wasn't that large when this movie came out. And rightfully so, maybe. But if you didn't like it, feel free to tell me in the comments. And if you also found this movie very scary, like I did when it came out, and maybe you love it now, and maybe you've watched it like 9 or 10 times like I have since, tell me in the comments, because I don't know, I enjoy hearing that stuff either way. But yeah, this has been my episode for the movie Hereditary, and until next time.